for postgraduates in pathology. Our chairperson for tonight is Dr. R.K. Sharan. He is the Director and Professor of Pathology at G.B. Pant Hospital, New Delhi. The presenter for tonight is Dr. Shipra Agrawal, ma'am, Additional Professor in Pathology at AIIMS, New Delhi. And we have participants from across the country. We have 6 students with us, and I would request them to introduce themselves.
Good evening, one and all. This is Dr. Akhil, first year PG from Kasturba Medical College, Mangalore.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Tanupriya, first year PG from BPS GMC Kanpur.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sashwati Das, second year PG from SCB Medical College and Hospital, Cuttack.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Shina Devi, first year postgraduate from Sri Balaji Medical College, Chennai.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Shifa Mariam, PG first year from Gulbarga Institute of Medical Science, Gulbarga.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Loknath Sarkar. I'm second year PG resident from Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences, Karad.
Okay, thank you, students. So, as the pattern goes, all the students will be interacting with Shipra ma'am directly, while the attendees will put up their questions in the chat box, which will be presented to the speaker via the moderators. The reminders are, if there is any interruption in your connection, low or no sound, video freezing or video lag, and you leave the meeting and rejoin with the same link. In case the problem persists, please check your internet connection. Please answer the poll questions, if any, by typing in the chat box. Kindly do not send requests for annotation to the presenters. This sign should not be clicked. A few disclaimers. Few more. And about the upcoming talks, our next session is on diabetes by Dr. Geetika Singh, who is a professor at AIIMS Delhi. It will be on 21st of September. Following this, on 26th of September, we have a slide seminar on cell death, apoptosis, and necrosis by Dr. Venkateshwan Iyer and Dr. Balamurugan. So let's start. I invite Dr. Shipra ma'am to take over and begin the slide seminar session.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you so much. So, Akhil, we'll start with you. And this is the first case. Can you read out the history which you have been given?
Yes, ma'am.
It's there on the screen also.
No, we can't see the screen. Share your screen.
Okay. Yeah, can you see it now?
Not yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So can you read out the history?
The case is a 38-year-old man and it's a thyroid nodule.
Right. So this is the slide scanned image which you were given. So, right. So what do you see? What did you see in the slide?
The section studied shows a thyroid gland parenchyma with well circumscribed encapsulated tumor showing papillary pattern. The papillae appear complex, branching with a central fibrovascular core, and they're lined by cuboidal to low columnar epithelium cells. And these tumor cells have eosinophilic cytoplasm and moderate pleomorphic nuclei, and the nuclei have ground glass to optically clear appearance and are large and often overlapping on each other, with occasional nuclear pseudo-inclusions, and few nuclei show nuclear grooving along their long axis.
So,
And numerous psammoma bodies were seen in the tumor proper.
what is this that you see?
Pardon, ma'am?
What is this?
Psammoma bodies.
Right. This is a psammoma body. Okay. Then can you describe a papilla in your terms? You said complex papillary architecture. Was there any other architecture? And can you describe a papilla? Can you define a papilla? Is there a papilla in this field?
Yes, ma'am. There is papillary architecture with a central fibrovascular core.
Right, with central fibrovascular core. What is happening over here? What are these?
Uh, follicular arrangement.
Yeah, so there is microfollicular arrangement also. Then,
Yes, ma'am.
What's this? I have already named it, but for the audience, I'm just showing it. What's happening here?
Nuclear grooving.
Anything else?
Pseudo inclusion.
Nuclear
Yeah, somebody said
Pseudo
intranuclear
inclusion.
inclusion. Yeah, inclusion. Can you define pseudo inclusion? What are the defining criteria for pseudo inclusion?
Pseudo inclusions are cytoplasmic enfoldings.
Okay, so Loknath, can you help him?
Ma'am, it's an epithelial invagulation. Like.
Okay, Shifa.
Yes. They are internuclear herniation of the pockets of cytoplasm. Also.
Very good. And that's because of?
Because of that, during processing, maybe during fixation.
So because there is a membrane infolding. Okay, membrane irregularity is there. It folds inside the nucleus and carries a part of the cytoplasm along with it. So you can clearly see that this particular nucleus has an internuclear inclusion which is of pink in color, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So sometimes even bubbles or artifacts can look like inclusions. It has to be of the color of the cytoplasm. Plus, it has to have a chromatin ring around it because that's the nuclear membrane. In this, you can clearly see that there is a chromatin ring around it, right? A dark blue outlining is there, right? And it is of pink color. So this is an intranuclear inclusion. It's not an artifact. Anything else? Anybody else wants to add anything to the description? He has missed few points. Otherwise, the description was fine.
Can
Ma'am,
Dr.
what is
Shilpa
this?
you increase the magnification further to just highlight the point of that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because large magnification up to 40 or 60x is needed to show all the others. Because there is some lag of the internet speed, so that may be creating the text is speaking and the slides pictures are probably not matching here. So don't change the magnification frequently. Just go to the maximum high power and one area only, and then show exactly what is the nuclear folding and the inclusions and what the student has just cited.
Okay, sir. Point taken. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, anybody else? Any other features?
Ma'am, are the papillae lined by tall cells? I mean, their height is
Right.
3 times the width.
So, very good question. Not all of them, but yes,
But
hopefully
some
there
of
were.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what is the definition for tall cell subtype of PTC?
Tall cell subtype must comprise 30% of the tumor cell and their height must be 3 times the width of the cell. And
Yeah.
it should have defined cytoplasmic border and abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm.
Right. So over here there was a focus with tall cells. Like I think it's there over here also. Yeah, these are ones. Then over here also there are tall cells. So yes, there are, but it's not amounting to more than 30%
More than
of the volume, right? And what are how do you define nuclear grooves in PTC? What is there any defining criteria?
They're along the long axis of the nucleus, ma'am, and the nuclear
Very good.
usually
So
ovoid
along the
shape.
long axis, very good. That's one point. Second point, they have to be at least dash much in length. So 2/3 of the length, at least that much long they should be. Okay, shorter ones are not called grooves. Then, how did you perceive the this? He said optically clear nuclei.
Ground.
So, how do you see that in H&E?
Glass.
They're often called IEs.
Yeah, but how do you see that on H&E?
It will be
Round
empty
glass, empty cells.
Orphan Annie.
So, can you see the chromatin is marginalized, right? It's
Yes,
towards
ma'am.
the rim, right? So, this
Yes.
is marginalization of chromatin because of there is an orphan Annie appearance of the nuclei. And you can also see a lot of nuclei which have infoldings or they start looking like crescents. There is so much of nuclear crowding, right? They are ovoid, they are not round, right? They are elongated nuclei. Unlike follicular neoplasms, follicular adenoma, follicular carcinoma, which will have predominantly round nuclei. Yeah. So as per the latest WHO 2022 classification, what is besides all these features, one essential feature to call a case of call a case as carcinoma? What is that?
Invasion.
Invasion.
Yes, very good. Invasion. No, you don't talk about capsular invasion. Just invasion. That can be capsular or that can be permeative, right? In this case, what type of invasion did you see?
Capsular invasion.
Capsular.
So is the tumor encapsulated?
Invasion.
Is the tumor encapsulated?
No.
What? Can you draw a clear-cut line using a pen or a pencil and call it a capsule? I don't think so. It's like you are seeing some desmoplastic reaction throughout the tumor, right? This is a stromal response which it has elicited. There is no definite capsule. Okay, this is a permeative pattern. Understood?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So this tumor is not encapsulated. Okay. What else did Akhil miss in his description?
Lymphocytes.
Lymphocyte collection.
Lymphocytes. Depots.
Okay, so there was yes, he did miss it. That's an important point. There's some lymphocyte collection, but more than that, there's a single lymph node also which is free of tumor, right? Plus, he also didn't completely describe the adjoining thyroid parenchyma. So whether there is lymphocytic thyroiditis or Hashimoto or adenomatous change, he didn't describe it. Anybody else wants to do it? So how are the follicles sized? Is there too much variation in the size of the follicles, or they are more or less similar? Or so that's what we're talking about adenomatous. As per the new WHO,
Variable sized follicles.
variable sized follicles, but it may be an early change. It's not too much of an overt adenomatous change, right? There is not much nodularity. There is not much fibrosis or fibrosepta posting through. So it's minimally early adenomatous change or something, but nothing more. Yes, there is some variability. They are not uniformly sized, but there's no lymphocytic thyroiditis or Hashimoto thyroiditis. You should remember that PTC often develops in a background of Hashi or LD, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is a nice papilla which you can see over here, right? There are multiple papillae. But they are back to back. I agree, and there's no cystic change. Usually in cysts, when there's cystic change, the papillae are easily perceived. So but there are numerous papillae.
Yes.
Okay. So this was a case of, what do you want to call it, Akhil, finally?
Papillary thyroid carcinoma.
Which subtype?
Subtype.
Conventional.
Conventional or classic?
Classical.
Classic.
Yeah. Conventional or classic PTC. Any other feature, I'm going to discuss that with the next case, but any other feature you should have described? Any student can talk about it? Well, how do you decide whether the malignancy is low grade or high grade?
Mitosis.
What all features do you look for? Yes,
Mitosis.
And necrosis. In case of thyroid, in case of follicle-derived thyroid carcinoma, we look at mitosis and necrosis. So, Akhil, did you see any focus of necrosis?
No, ma'am. I couldn't find necrosis, but occasional mitotic figures I was seeing.
So, does that amount to high grade? Occasional?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. So, we'll come to what amounts to high grade later on. But this case is a case of classic PTC lacking high grade features. Okay. So, we go on to the second case. So, this is it. I've just written minimum papillae. For classic PTC, papillae, nuclear features, typical enlargement, elongation, crowding or overlapping, chromatin clearing, nuclear membrane irregularity in the form of grooves and pseudoinclusions, and semoma bodies. Case 2. Case 2 is a 6-year-old female with a thyroid. So, Shashwati, do you want to take up this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry it's not a great section, but I didn't get time to get a better cut. But it's good enough to tell the features. Yeah. So, Shashwati, low power, what are you seeing on low power?
Microsection shows foci of normal thyroid follicle filled with colloid, along with a one focus showing capsular nodular well circumscribed tumor tissue, and another foci showing tumor tissue present in diffuse sheets and nests separated by fibrovascular septa.
Okay, so first focus was which one?
Ma'am, the middle one, where the normal follicles are there. Then besides that, the nodular capsular tumor tissue.
What about this focus?
Yes, ma'am, that is tumor cells are present in mostly folliculars, closely packed follicles.
Right. And what about this focus? This tumor?
Tumor cells are present in nest and sheet pattern separated by fibrovascular septum from low power.
Okay. Okay. Fine. So you want to describe further? We go to high power, right? First, we'll look at this tumor. Yeah. You want to describe?
Yeah. Tumor cells are arranged in compact follicles, and the individual tumor cells are round to oval with hyperchromatic nucleus, scant cytoplasm, and secretion present in some of the follicles.
Right.
And there is an foci of mushroom type invasion besides the arrangement.
This one, right?
Yes.
Is this the one you're talking about? Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? What's happening here?
There is also a foci of vascular invasion where tumor cells are present in dilated blood vessels with adherent to the endothelial cell.
Great. Anything else you want to describe in this nodule? So when we talk of thyroid, we have to talk of nuclear features.
Yes, ma'am. There is nuclear hyperchromatic nucleus with crowding.
Okay. Tanupriya, do you want to further describe the nuclear features? We just discussed about few features, right? Nuclear
Yes, ma'am.
elongation. Yes or no?
Elongation.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't they look like what? Elongated, pointed, ended, or oval? And there's so much crowding you talked about. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Nuclear crowding is there.
But there's so much nuclear elongation. They're not round, right? They're not basally located and round. They are all elongated, like columnar cells. Aren't they looking like columnar cells?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Although they look hyperchromatic, but all of them have margination of chromatin, right? There is a pale center and there's a thick blue rim around it, right? So
Yes,
there
ma'am.
is chromatic margination also.
Yes, ma'am.
Did anybody find intranuclear inclusions? No, I
No,
also
ma'am.
didn't find. I also didn't find true
No,
intranuclear
ma'am. No inclusions were present.
inclusions were there, right? What about nuclear grooves and membrane irregularity?
Ma'am, membrane irregularity was there.
Yeah, it's there. You can see many of the nuclei, in fact, molded to each other, right? Like salt and
Membrane
carbon.
irregularity is present.
Yeah, they're crescentic. They were crescentic nuclei also with membrane indentation. What is this? This pink material inside the follicles?
Colloid.
Colloid.
What do you call it in PTC?
Insipicited.
So there is thick chewing gum like colloid, right?
Chewing colloid.
Is this normal colloid? Is this normal colloid? It's not like normal, na?
No.
You have seen normal thyroid, right?
Yes,
Ye dekho,
ma'am.
this is normal thyroid. This is the normal colloid. Is it like, was that like normal colloid?
No, ma'am.
No. Right. So there was thick chewing gum like colloid. Did anybody see semoma bodies?
Not in.
No.
No, ma'am.
Did anybody see true papillae?
No, ma'am.
No. So all these have to be described. The negative findings also have to be there, right? Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Now we come to the second nodule. Okay. So this is the second nodule. You said these are fibrous septi. Are they actually fibrous septi? Yes, there is a lot of there is a lot of
Ma'am,
nodularity
from low power. Yes, ma'am.
of low power. Okay, no problem. But when you see something in high power which is not matching with your low power interpretation, you don't speak that. Okay, so you can see it's more like fibrosis. Can you see around the vessels there is so much fibrosis?
Yes.
So there's interstitial fibrosis, and it's the same thing which is progressing here, right? So okay, so can you describe the architecture of this nodule?
Ma'am, here also tumor cells are present, some in nested pattern and some in follicular pattern also, separated by fibrosis. And the individual tumor cells are round to oval with stipple chromatin. And there is also presence of amorphous acellular material, eosinophilic material, besides the tumor cells.
Can you help me in searching for that acellular proteinaceous material? This one.
Ma'am, just
What's this anyway? What's this? It's calcification, non-semomatic type calcification, and this is the cause. The calcification is the cause of the tear in the section, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, okay. Did you see any microfollicular architecture?
yes, ma'am. In that section, microfollicular arrangement is present.
In this tumor, elsewhere there is microfollicular architecture also, right? Over here, for example, you can see, Anna?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, did anybody else? What is the acellular protein? Acellular material you talked about?
Ma'am, resembling amyloid, I thought.
Resembling amyloid. Okay. Anybody else who saw this material? Okay. So, what's the interpretation? What is the overall diagnosis which you will give to this tumor? good description overall. We need to edit some points. That's all. Overall, a good description. So, what do you think it is?
I thought due to presence of the cell material and arrangement of the tumor cell in nest and follicular pattern along with the follicular nodule, it can be a mixed medullary follicular carcinoma.
Okay. Now, since we saw the nuclear features of PTC in the smaller nodule, do you want to modify your diagnosis? Because follicular carcinoma does not have nuclear features of PTC.
So mixed medullary papillary carcinoma.
Mixed medullary papillary.
Papillary.
Okay. So what do you understand by nest?
When clusters, cluster pattern or organoid pattern.
Organoid pattern. But what do you understand? So if you have to describe to a 12th grader, what will you say? It's a cluster of cells which is surrounded by a
Fibrovascular septa.
Yeah, thin fibrovascular septa, right? That's a nest. Okay. Okay. So it's also known as Zellballen, but that's not what we are seeing here. So, okay. You also talk about stipple chromatin. So stipple chromatin means salt and pepper, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Salt is the larger granules and pepper is the smaller granules, right? Are you seeing salt and pepper chromatin over here?
I thought you.
No. So, okay. Is follicular architecture described in MTC, medullary thyroid carcinoma? Is follicular architecture, you talked about mixed nesting and follicular architecture in this larger tumor, right? So is follicular architecture described in MTC? If it's not described, then it cannot be MTC. If it is described, we can still keep it as an option.
Follicular pattern is present.
Anybody?
Follicular variant of PTC.
Yes, even in MTC.
Present.
So you didn't get my question. In MTC, can the tumor cells show a microfollicular architecture?
Yes, ma'am, they can show.
Yes, they can show. I agree. So, so from your description, whatever you made out is correct, but your description is not correct. So observations are not correct. Description may be fine. So if you see, these nuclei also have those chromatin margination, right? They also have a central paler area. So actually, this tumor and the other tumor, they look a bit different, except in the difference in the architecture. This tumor has more of nests and solid areas, plus microfollicular architecture. But the nuclear features are similar. What about mitosis and necrosis?
I don't find any areas of necrosis.
Pardon me, sorry?
Ma'am, I didn't find any areas of necrosis.
You didn't find any areas of necrosis, right? Even I did find, correct. So our observations are similar, but there was no amyloid-like material. The amyloid-like material which you talked about was just fibrosis and hyalinization. There is no amyloid-like material anywhere. Okay, there's no amyloid. This is all hyalinization, which you may have mistaken to be amyloid.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, I thought that was amyloid.
No problem. No problem. Okay. So now let's summarize. We have a thyroid tumor because there is a parent tissue which is showing foci of lymphocytic infiltration, right? So I'm not sure from this section whether there was overt LT, because sometimes adenomatous change, and when there's tumor, you may get some lymphocytic infiltration. There's not much follicular destruction by the lymphocytes, right? If there's follicular destruction, there's some over here, but not much. So then that's when you call it LT or lymphocytic thyroiditis. Okay.
Yes.
So we have two nodules with similar nuclear features, similar architecture, except for somewhat more solid areas in the larger one, plus evidence of capsular and vascular invasion in the smaller nodule. So now, do you want to make a final call on the diagnosis?
Follicular carcinoma.
Okay. Anybody else? Loknath?
Ma'am, I feel it's um, follicular variant of papillary thyroid carcinoma.
Both the nodules or one nodule?
One nodule.
Smaller one.
Yeah.
Larger one? What is the larger one?
Larger one.
Okay, so I'll sort out this issue for you. So definitely, this case is FAPTC, follicular variant of papillary thyroid carcinoma. Actually, as per the new terminology, we call it IEFAPTC, or invasive encapsulated
Variant of
Follicular carcinoma with papillary.
follicular variant of papillary thyroid carcinoma, not follicular carcinoma. Okay, IEFAPTC, invasive encapsulated follicular variant of papillary thyroid carcinoma. And this nodule, probably both of these are, so what WHO says is either we do clonality studies of both these tumors, or because the patient management per se is not going to be affected. So probably this tumor is an extension of this tumor because this was a larger nodule as their morphology is similar. So if you see similar cytomorphology, you call them related. So probably it's a separate nodule, or this can be a nodular presentation of the same tumor. So PTC goes by lymphatic, so it can be another nodule. So anyway, the management won't be affected and the cytomorphology is similar. Some amount of solid architecture is permitted in all differentiated thyroid carcinomas. It should amount to less than 30% of the tumor volume. So this was an IEFAPTC. I can show the slides which I have prepared. Sharon sir, do you want to add something for the two cases, or I can show the slides first and then you can
it is
add
perfect,
both?
perfect. Please carry on. This is smooth and very good. It is now okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So IEFAPTC, it's thyroid. Somehow they have given very long acronyms, and but they help you to remember. There's something known as NIFT. I'll come to that. There is IEFAPTC. So invasive encapsulated follicular variant of papillary thyroid carcinoma. What is the definition? Exclusive or almost exclusive follicular architecture. As I told you, less than 30% solid architecture is permitted. There should not be papillae, or if they are there, they should be less than 1%. Okay, papillae, remember, they can be true or pseudo. You saw true papillae in the previous case, the ones with fibrovascular core. Pseudopapillae are papillary infoldings. You will often see micro follicles within the core of the pseudopapillae. So those are pseudopapillae. They don't amount to papillae, so they won't be counted in this. Then PTC nuclear feature should be there. But remember, in these tumors, the nuclear features are less than what you see in classic PTC. So you didn't see intranuclear inclusions. Plus, there should be evidence of invasion in the form of capsular and or vascular invasion. So this picture image you must have seen in your Fletcher. It's a beautiful way of explaining how capsular invasion can look like. So this is the fibrous capsule. When you see such a protrusion of the tumor, it's a partial protrusion of the tumor, you don't call it capsular invasion. Okay, you have to take deep cuts or more sections of the capsule to call it capsular invasion, when you will call it carcinoma. Okay, if it's like this, it is invasion. What is this happening over here in D? This is a secondary capsule. So you can see if you draw a line, this is where the capsule was. This is a secondary capsule. A nodule outside. Again, this can be something to the similar to the situation which we saw today. Something is beyond the capsule and beyond the normal thyroid. Okay, so this is also invasion. Such small clusters of tumor cells are again not invasion. This is what we talk about as mushrooming. But if it's partial, again, it's not yet. You need to take deep cuts of this section which is showing such a feature, and you need to sample the capsules more. Again, this is not. So sometimes when you take an FNA from the nodule, if the patient has been subjected to pre-operative FNA, you may see some granulation tissue, some hemosiderin, some immune inflammatory cells, plus some tumor cells which have been pulled along with the needle track. So defer from calling it invasion. So this is from another case where we initially saw a section. If you can see, this thick is the capsule. So always remember, one pointer. Follicular carcinomas and FUPTCs, they have a thick capsule in contrast to follicular adenomas and NIFPs, which have thin capsule. Okay, NIFP is the in an intermediate malignancy tumor, or it's not called malignancy actually, it's an intermediate risk neoplasm, which is like, which if shows invasion, you call it IE FUPTC. Similar to FA, when it shows invasion, you call it FTC. So in this case, we saw this partial invasion. So we went ahead with more sectioning. Can you see? This entire thing has come, which is outside the capsule. So this is true capsular invasion. Okay, another case. This is the capsule and this is the mushrooming. Can you move out the mushrooming? Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't, this is not invasion. Okay, this is not even partial invasion. Okay. So how do you judge vascular invasion? So sometimes, especially in thyroid and endocrine tumors, what we have observed is they protrude into the tumor, impinges onto the vessel. Okay, that's not invasion. Okay, for calling something as vascular invasion, it has to be surrounded by endothelial cells, the tumor ampullus, or if it's not surrounded by endothelium, it has to be associated with a fibrin thrombus. Okay, or it has to be adherent to a vessel wall. And vascular invasion has to be assessed within the capsule or outside the capsule. If you see something within the tumor looking like angioinvasion, you don't call it angioinvasion. It has to be assessed in the capsule and outside the capsule. So this is again an invasion. This is not invasion because it's not associated with fibrin thrombi or adherence to the vessel wall or surrounded by endothelial cells. Am I clear? So this is another case with evidence of vascular invasion. Yeah. Okay. So this was a case of IE FEPTC. Now, just like follicular thyroid carcinoma, IE FEPTC also has the same subcategories. So you call it minimally invasive when it has capsular invasion. You call it encapsulated angioinvasive when there is vascular invasion with or without capsular invasion. Okay. So if there is vascular invasion, you don't call it minimally. If there's vascular invasion with or without capsular invasion, you call it encapsulated angioinvasive. Okay. Further, you have to also categorize how many vessels are involved by the invasion. So less than 4 or more than or equal to 4. Widely invasive when there is extensive involvement of the thyroid and extrathyroidal soft tissues by the tumor. So why do you need to categorize it like this? And why do you need to tell how many vessels are involved? Well, if you see this image from American Thyroid Association 2015 guidelines, you can see a case with extensive vascular invasion has a worse risk of structural disease recurrence as compared to a case which is minimally invasive. So that's why this subclassification is essential to be involved in your histopath reports. Now, is IEFVPTC a subtype of PTC? Anybody? Chinna Devi?
Yes.
No, it is
No,
not.
it's a subtype of follicular carcinoma.
Follicular cell derived carcinoma. Okay, so follicular thyroid carcinoma is follicular cell derived. Right. Very good. Why? So earlier, before 2022, it was a subtype of PTC, but it's no longer a subtype of PTC. It has been, if you see here, 3.2.3.1 follicular thyroid carcinoma, 3.2.3.2 IEFEPTC, 3.2.3.3 is PTC and its subtypes. Okay, and 3.2.3.5 is oncocytic carcinoma of the thyroid. Why has it been separated? Anybody? This is the hint. Does it behave like PTC? So, yeah, it doesn't. Very good. So this is the old concept. FEPTC as a subtype of PTC. Now, FEPTC can either be IE FEPTC, the example of which we saw today, or it can be infiltrative or diffuse FEPTC. So it can have, without a capsule, just like your classic PTC, it can have infiltrative borders. So it has been observed that infiltrative or diffuse FOPTC behaves more like classical PTC, and it shows lymph node metastasis plus molecular alterations similar to classic PTC. Whereas IE-FEPTC behaves more like FTC and shows more commonly hematogenous mets, plus has more commonly RAS mutations and PAR-gamma alterations. Okay, so BRAF V600E mutation, commonly seen with classic PTC, is more common in infiltrative PTC, FEPTC, as compared to encapsulated, and vice versa for RAS mutations and PAR-gamma alterations. Okay, so molecularly and clinical behavior wise, it behaves more like FTC. That's why it has been removed from the from the PTC subgroup. So this is an image taken from this article from Pathology International, which I really find useful in classifying follicular pattern tumors which are encapsulated. So our tumor will lie somewhere over here, follicular variant of PTC, PTC nuclear features present, and capsular and vascular invasion present. When the invasion is doubtful or questionable in the same tumor, you'll call it well-differentiated tumor of uncertain malignant potential. When it's absent, you'll call it NIFP. Okay. Similarly, if the PTC nuclear features are absent and there is invasion, you call it follicular carcinoma. If they are absent and capsular vascular invasion is questionable, you call it follicular tumor of uncertain malignant potential. If no capsular vascular invasion, no nuclear features, you know what to call it. Easiest, follicular adenoma. Okay. Yeah. So, just quickly, I don't know whether I should discuss this or not over here, but just quickly. So, NIFP, I hope you all know about it. It's non-invasive follicular thyroid neoplasm with papillary nuclear features. So, IE-FEPTC without invasive features is NIFP. Okay, am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I clear, Shifa?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so this is how you score the nuclei. Each parameter is given a 0.1, one score. So first, nuclear enlargement, elongation, overlapping. If this is present, you give it score 1. Chromatin clearing, you give it another score. Nuclear membrane irregularity, grooves or pseudo-inclusions, another score. So if it's a follicular adenoma, it will total out to be a score of 0 or 1. NIFP, FEPTC will score out to 2 or 3. Okay, so these are just images from random cases showing different nuclear scores, 0, 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going into the details of this. So I hope this is clear, right? NIFP and IE-FEPTC.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell one thing more about Dr. Shipra?
Yes,
Let's say micro-invasive carcinoma, and if there is a doubt about the capsular invasion.
So if there is a doubt about capsular invasion, first thing is you have to
and overt invasion. So micro-invasive and the capsular doubtful invasion, they both are what I read long back. You may correct it to all the research. Whether both of them behave similarly as if clinical outcome wise. Overt invasive, frank invasive, more than 5 millimeter. I forget the dimension. You can correct and tell. So those are the two things which probably has to emphasize at this point.
Right. So, sir, most with minimally invasive, which are minimally invasive, they usually do not behave aggressively. But that's usually. So some researchers, they suggest that we classify these as low-grade tumors. But WHO doesn't agree to this. Why? Because WHO says that it is unpredictable as to which of these tumors which show lymph node metastasis. In fact, that's why they have removed the term papillary microcarcinoma from the recent WHO 2022 classification. They are saying even if the tumor is less than 1 centimeter, it's classic PTC. You call it classic PTC and mention the size. You don't call it microcarcinoma. In fact, last week only we had a faculty from radiology diagnosis from another hospital who had a 6 mm tumor in thyroid. He had radiation exposure because of his profession, plus lymph node metastasis. So despite the small size of the tumor had metastasized. The frequency is lower, definitely, than those with overt invasion, but it's not 0. So that's why WHO did not accept the proposal of some of the researchers that you put them under low risk.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. So can we go to case 3?
Ma'am, there are a few questions. Actually, many of them have been covered, but Jaya wants to know capsular invasion means capsule of the tumor or of the thyroid gland.
Very nice question. This question we often face from the clinicians. So it is capsule of the tumor. So what we do is we mention it in the report. Capsule of the nodule is infiltrative. In fact, thyroid doesn't have a very definite capsule. That's why microscopic extracellular extension has been removed from the latest AJCC classification, and it is just gross ETE which has been considered. Because even if you see normal thyroid parenchyma, you may see few skeletal muscle and bundles and adipocytes within intermixed with thyroid. So it doesn't have a definite capsule, but the question is very valid, and our clinicians often ask us the same question.
Okay. Next question is from Shiny Path. She wants you to explain once more the nuclear features in the solid area. Does the solid area also have papillary nuclear features?
Yeah, it did have papillary nuclear features. One thing you have to remember about NIFP and IEFEPTC is that they may have patchy nuclear features. Okay, they may not be overtly developed. So it doesn't. If some portion is lacking those nuclear features, it should not be classified as FTC when you are seeing clear-cut nuclear features in the other part of the tumor.
Okay. Vanessa wants to know what will be the tumor size in the second case. Probably because there were two separate nodules.
Okay. So tumor size in the second case will depend upon the gross also. So that's again a very valid tumor. So if we consider this very valid question, so if we consider the second or the smaller nodule as an invasive focus, then you have to take the size of the larger nodule plus the smaller nodule. It will be a combination. You'll have to add both of them. But in thyroid, the maximum impact is by the presence of extracellular extension on gross examination and by lymph node metastasis, which definitely affect the clinical outcome. Size is there in TNM, but these parameters have more stronger implication on the follow-up.
And anonymous person, he wants to know if there is an FAPTC without a capsule, how would you name it?
So that will be invasive FAPTC, or actually we'll call it. So now in WHO 2022, you don't use the word variant in PTC subtypes, you call them subtypes. Why has that been removed? Because mutation is also variance, NERA P600E variant. Okay, so the terminology variant has been removed. So you call it infiltrative follicular subtype of PTC.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so can we go to case 3?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is case 3.
Okay, there's one more. 2-3 people
Yeah.
have asked, can the case 2 be labeled as a multifocal tumor?
Yes, you can call it, but WHO. So you'll have to categorize each nodule. So in these patients, if you see the treatment is not going to be affected, right? It's a differentiated thyroid carcinoma. The patient will get radioactive iodine, right? He or she will have to undergo total thyroidectomy followed by radioactive iodine. So treatment is not going to affect it. And if you follow the WHO criteria, both these nodules were adjacent, and then you look at the gross. Okay, there may be a point if you take multiple slices and if you take deeper cuts that they may be opposed to each other. So you have to be 100% sure before calling them separate nodules. So it needs more sectioning, right? And ultimately the management is not going to be affected. And as per WHO, if both the nodules are adjacent and they are showing similar cytomorphology, then you call it and give it one name. But if they're showing different cytomorphology and you're seeing multiple nodules on gross examination which are far apart, no cutoff as to how far they should be, but then you can categorize them separately. Ultimately, management is the same, so that's not going to be affected. But good questions, I like them. And yes, these are the problems which we face when we sign out thyroid cases.
Yes,
So, is there anything else? No. So can you go to case 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tanupriya,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Section from thyroid show a capsulated tissue which showing clusters of highly eosinophilic and abundant cytoplasm with eccentric nucleus and prominent nucleoli with thyroid follicles in between them.
Thyroid follicles in between what?
No, in it also there's presence of thyroid. Normal thyroid follicles are also there.
Within the tumor. Okay, so focal follicular architecture is also there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What all did you do you think you missed in your description? Normal thyroid. What about normal thyroid?
In normal thyroid, there is variable follicular structures are there. मतलब variable size of follicles. Some are big, some are small.
Okay. So the new terminology for adenomatous goiter in WHO 2022 is
Oncocytic adenoma. Sorry, ma'am.
beta,
Can you please? I'm sorry. Can
It's
you
okay.
please?
So
Can you please repeat the question?
latest terminology for adenomatous goiter is
Follicular nodular diseases.
right, thyroid follicular nodular disease. So you made this oncocytic adenoma, right?
Yes, ma'am. I made this oncocytic adenoma with FND.
With?
Ma'am, with FND, because on the second side, there are kinds of variable size of thyroid tubes.
With follicular adenoma, I didn't understand. With what?
Ma'am, with follicular nodular disease on the second side.
With adenomatous chain, with follicular nodular disease. Okay, understood.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Shifa, do you want to edit any of her descriptive points?
Ma'am, they have like abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm, which is looking like oncocytic type.
She talked about that.
Yes, ma'am. Then
oncocytic, agreed.
Then mild pleomorphisms here is also present.
Okay. Anything else? So what about the architecture? You talked about the architecture. You said about a few interspersed microfollicles, but what about the architecture of the main tumor?
It was mostly solid.
Mostly in sheet, right?
Sheets.
Mostly in sheets, right? Okay. Akhil, what
Yes,
else did Tanupriya miss? Did Shifa miss?
there it was solid along with some trabeculae and few follicles, ma'am, according to me.
Anybody else noted anything beyond whatever has been described?
Ma'am, is there any invasion? Invasion of the capsular
vascular
vascular invasion.
Yeah, you can see these vascular invasion. Can you see these marks? What is this? This is typical mushrooming of the tumor.
Mushrooming of the
Yeah. If you draw a line, then this is where the capsule ends, right? Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
This is where the capsule ends. Okay. So there is definitely this is a secondary capsule which we just discussed about. What about these? These are angioinvasive foci. Look, it's closely, these tumor cells are closely admixed with RBCs and fibrin. See, there is so much fibrin.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is angioinvasion, right? So this definitely has capsular as well as vascular invasion. So now anybody wants to tell me the diagnosis?
Ma'am,
Oncocytic carcinoma.
Carcinoma.
Oncocytic carcinoma. Now, what are the negative descriptors which we are supposed to give? So, oncocytic change can be seen even in PTC. So, you look for PTC like nuclear features. So, oncocytic PTC will again have round nuclei, but it will show grooves, it will show chromatin layering, it will show inclusions. But remember, benign oncocytes and oncocytic carcinoma can also show some inclusion, but in PTC the inclusions are numerous. In fact, you may have multiple inclusions per nucleus. Okay, MTC can also show oncocytic change, but again you have to have that salt and pepper chromatin. So all those negative descriptors have to be there in your description. Then again you talk about mitosis and necrosis. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this was when do you call something as oncocytic tumor? Is there a cutoff? She said there were some follicles also which did not have oncocytic change.
Ma'am, 75% of the tumor should be.
Very good. So 75% of the tumor should have oncocytic cells. Nuclear features should be absent, and high grade features again, that is mitosis more than or equal to 5 per 2 millimeter square, necrosis should be absent. So these are the high grade you have to look in every case of differentiated thyroid carcinoma. Why do we need to look for these features when they were not there in the previous WHO? So this is why differentiated thyroid carcinoma without high grade features has a very good survival of more than 90% at 10 years. Follicular derived carcinoma high grade. This is the new name which they have given to such carcinomas with high grade features. Its 10-year OS overall survival is about 50%. Anaplastic, it's like a sentence, and survival rates are very low. So these are the criteria. So follicular derived carcinoma high grade is an umbrella term for two entities. Differentiated high-grade thyroid carcinoma, that's a thyroid carcinoma like PTC, FTC, oncocytic with high-grade features, and the earlier poorly differentiated thyroid carcinoma, which was already there in the previous WHO also. So, in differentiated high-grade thyroid carcinoma, you will have the typical features of a differentiated thyroid carcinoma plus a high mitotic count and tumor necrosis. Anaplastic features should be absent. The prognosis is intermediate between differentiated thyroid carcinoma and anaplastic, as also in PTTC. But in PTC, the architecture has to be solid or insular or trabecular. Nuclear features of PTC have to be absent. Mitosis cutoff is 3 per 2 millimeter square. With any of the other features, that is nuclear necrosis so any of these three features should be present. Okay, so this is an example of a poorly differentiated thyroid carcinoma. You can see foci of necrosis. The typical insular architecture is there, and numerous mitosis. And this is Ki67 labeling index, which is high. Although this is not a parameter, I just put in the picture. So now we are on to endocrine tumors. So although it's not related to the case, I thought I'll just discuss how do you measure this 2 millimeter square. So earlier, in every textbook, it was 10 high power fields or 50 high power fields for adrenal gland. Now they have changed it to millimeter square. Any reason for this? So like my microscope may be different from yours, right? A person who's using it in USA will be using a different microscope with a different field number. Okay, so
Yes,
field number, it helps in calculating our field of vision or diameter of the field. Plus nowadays there's so much of this telepathology. So I may be seeing the section project after scanning the slide the way you are seeing. So it may be a rectangular field and not a circular field, right? So to make the area uniform of the measuring field, they have now changed everything to millimeter square. So how do we calculate this millimeter square? So I've just put it like this for you. So field of vision will be the field number of the eyepiece. Why of the eyepiece and why not of the objective? Anybody? Logical thinking? Because eyepiece is the final thing which we are seeing. So if the field number or the field diameter of the eyepiece is field diameter of the eyepiece is smaller than that of the objective, ultimately you're seeing a smaller field, right?
Yes.
So it's the eyepiece field number which matters. Ideally, field number of the eyepiece and the objective should be the same. But when you go to buy a microscope, somebody may cheat you. They will give you an eyepiece with a smaller field number without you realizing it. So that has to be taken care of. So that's why it's eyepiece field number. Okay. divided by the magnification of the object. That will give you the diameter in millimeter. If you divide this by 2, you'll get the radius. Area of one field is pi r square. So pi r square by is for one field. So for 2 millimeter square, number of fields will be 2 by a, right? Using the unitary method. I hope this is clear. So for example, this is the FN of my microscope. It's 26.5. So 26.5, if I count at 40x, diameter of my 40x will be 0.66, radius 0.33, area 0.34 if you calculate the formula, and number of fields will be approximately 6 hyper fields. So if you don't want to do all this calculation, just calculate the diameter and refer to this article by Dr. Ian Cree. He's the WHO chief also. So if you just, he has given according to the field diameter, number of fields per millimeter square. So can you see for my microscope with the 0.66 40x diameter, number of fields is 3 per millimeter square. So for 2 millimeter square, it's 6, the same as what we calculated together, right? Okay, so are you clear how to count mitosis in endocrine tumors per millimeter, per 2 millimeter square, per 5, whatever is the case, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I go to case 4?
No question.
Okay. So case 4, 24-year-old male, right adrenal tumor. Okay. Who wants to describe? Chinna Devi, you want to describe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
28-year-old male with the right adrenal gland tumor. The section studied shows a thin capsulated lesion. The cells seen are arranged in nests, and the nests are separated by vessels. And the cells are large in size. They are arranged in loose clusters. A few cells show vacuolated cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm is abundant. The nuclei appears small. Few areas shows nuclear atypia. There is no mitosis seen.
Okay. What type of atypia did you see? So atypia can be membrane irregularity. Atypia can be very marked pleomorphism, multinucleation, tumor giant cells. So what type of atypia did you see? Hyperchromasia.
Pleomorphism.
So pleomorphism can be in size or shape or both. What did you see?
Size of the nucleus.
Okay. Was there pleomorphism in shape also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? What about the nucleoli?
Hyperchromatic.
So nuclei are hyperchromatic.
Hyperchromatic.
Nucleoli. Single or multiple?
Multiple, ma'am.
Multiple. Some have single. So can you see the single nucleolus?
Yes.
What is the color? Is it eosinophilic or basophilic? Basophilic. In fact, most nuclei have single. Basophilic nucleoli. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Prominent basophilic nucleoli. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
What is this? What is this? Again, an inclusion. So inclusion doesn't make every tumor PTC. Okay.
Okay.
The adjoining ones are thought bubbles. This is an inclusion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what did you miss in your description? Okay, so let's see. First, what is your diagnosis?
It could be an adrenocortical adenoma.
You didn't tell me anything about invasive features.
There is no capsular or sinusoidal invasion, ma'am.
Okay.
Or venous invasion.
Okay, so you want to make it?
Adrenocortical adenoma.
Okay. What about the adrenal cortex here? Is it normal or abnormal?
This is a normal adrenal cortex.
Normal adrenal cortex. Okay, let's go one by one.
Yes.
Shashwati, do you think the tumor is encapsulated?
No, ma'am.
No, there is no capsule,
No
right?
capsule.
Can I draw a, like, this is the normal adrenal at the periphery and it's like merging into the tumor.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there is no separation. Okay, then inclusions are there. Okay,
Clear.
yeah, but what is the pattern architecture of the tumor cells? How are they arranged?
Nests of cells.
Nests of cells.
Cords which are 2 to 3 cell layer thick. Nets and cords. There is not much. There is no mitosis. I didn't find any mitosis. Okay, so you made it adenocortical adenoma. Do you know the layers of the adrenal cortex? You would be knowing. I'll just quickly tell if you want to learn. So, what are these cells looking like? Are they looking like glomerulosa, fasciculata, or reticularis? What are the tumor cells looking more like?
More like
More like fasciculatum.
More like fasciculata. Very good. So you call them lipid-rich cells. The few things which you forgot in your description were abundant, granular to vacuolated, clear cytoplasm, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So they were all vacuolated, lipid-rich word you can use.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Reticularis is typically composed of compact eosinophilic polygonal cells, right? Glomerulosa again is smaller cells which are lipid poor. Okay. And if this tumor would have been hypersecreting cortisol, what will you see in the adjoining cortex?
Spironolactone bodies.
I talk about cortisol. Spironolactone is when there is Conn syndrome, aldosteronism, and the patient has received spironolactone. If the tumor is secreting cortisol, you will see atrophy, right?
Adrenal cortex.
Of the adrenal cortex, which is not there in this. Okay. What about if the tumor is secreting aldosterone? You may or may not see spironolactone bodies depending upon whether the patient has received the drug or not. But will the cortex be atrophied?
No.
Why not? Because it is not ACTH suppressible, that's why. Okay. So it won't be atrophied. Okay. In fact, you may see pseudo or unexplained hypertrophy of the glomerulosa, in fact. Okay, it has been observed that patients with Conn syndrome have a thickened glomerulosa. So normally glomerulosa is in patches. It's not a continuous layer. So in case of hyperaldosteronism, you can see continuous. You may see, not always. You can see a continuous layer, or the clusters may be more than 200 micron in thickness. Okay, so let's come back to the tumor. So you correctly diagnosed it as adenocortical adenoma. So what are the criteria which we use to categorize an adenocortical case?
These criteria.
These criteria. Okay, so this is just to show the normal, which I've already discussed. Which of the 3 layers of the cortex is the thickest?
Glomerulus.
You can see it here. Fasciculata. Okay, it occupies about 75%. Glomerulosa is 15%, and this is the rest, about 5 to 10%. Normal weight, you should know, 4 to 6 gram. All endocrine organs have to be weighed. Okay. Okay. So you correctly said these are the criteria which are used used to classify adenocortical tumors. High ferment nuclear grade. Where do you use this grade commonly?
RCC.
RCC. So what about this particular tumor? What was the nuclear grade in this case?
It is high grade.
Was it? So that's why I was asking her. So there was no nuclear membrane irregularity. There was just variability in size. Okay. So remember, endocrine tumors, they tend to show something known as endocrine atypia. That is abrupt nuclear enlargement, abrupt nuclear pleomorphism. In fact, they may have much chromatin. But for it to be categorized as nuclear grade 3, the nucleoli have to be eosinophilic besides being seen at 10x. So in this, I agree, they were being seen at 10x, but they were basophilic. Okay, so it's not yet a high grade tumor. And mitosis, atypical mitotic figures and clear cells less than 25% tumor volume were not there. So the first 4 features belong to cell morphology. Okay, next 2 features to the architecture, diffuse architecture or necrosis. Then next 3 is invasion. So 0 to 2 is adenoma and more than equal to 3 is carcinoma. Now the system has been modified and some parameters have been removed, like permanent nuclear grade, diffuse architecture, venous and sinusoidal invasion have been removed. Why have they been removed? In fact, capsular invasion also, sometimes there is a discrepancy. These features, there is an inter-pathology observational difference. Okay, so I may call it venous invasion. We may not call it because there may be something like tumor cells which are entrapped and they look like invasion. So some parameters have been removed and a modified score has been given with similar cutoffs. But what's the problem with the system? It's applicable only for conventional adenocortical neoplasm involving adults. Okay. What about this tumor? You saw an oncocytic thyroid tumor. If it's an adenocortical neoplasm which is showing oncocytic morphology, will the same criteria be applicable?
No, ma'am. No.
Why not?
Another
I agree, another one will be used and show that, but why not Weiss criteria? Because if you see the criteria, oncocytic tumors will always have a high nuclear grade. They have very prominent nucleoli, which can be eosinophilic also. It will always have oncocytic tumor cells more than 75%. So, and it will always have diffuse architecture. So anyway, all oncocytic tumors will have a minimum score of 3, and they'll be mischaracterized as carcinoma. Hence, we use Dillon-Weiss-Bisceglia criteria. Okay, which has major and minor criteria. And any major criteria, you call it carcinoma. Any minor, you call it oncocytic cortical tumor of uncertain malignant potential. None of these criteria, you call it an adenoma. Okay. Right. Now, this is a newly introduced system, not very new, introduced in 2015, the Helsinki scoring system. This takes into account mitosis, again, in millimeter square. Can you notice that? It's not 50 hypercles anymore. Necrosis and Ki index. So if mitosis is higher than this, you give a score of 3. Necrosis present, you give a score of 5. Ki, for example, if the tumor has Ki of 10%, you add the value 10. So a tumor which has high mitosis plus necrosis plus a Ki of 10 will have a score of dash. Tell me, 10 plus 5 is 3, 18.
18.
Okay. Yeah, correct. So these cutoffs have been described by Penanen in 2015, but they still need to be validated. So WHO has talked about this system. It has talked about these cutoffs, but they still need validation because there are not many studies on this. So 0 to 8.5, you call it adenoma. More than or equal to 8.5 score, you call it carcinoma. And those carcinomas which have a score of more than 17, they tend to have an adverse prognosis. The advantage of the system is it's not only applicable to conventional scoring systems, it's also applicable to oncocytic and myxoid tumors of the adenocortical origin. Another one is reticulin algorithm. So normally the reticulin framework. I think I have image for that in the next slide. Yeah, so this is the reticulin architecture of normal adrenal cortex. So you can see that it's like small nests which you can draw a pencil around. So continuous, there's a continuous meshwork, right? If I move a pencil or a pen around this, I don't need to take it off. Am I right? I can keep on going. But in case of a carcinoma, it is not possible. There is quantitative alteration of reticulin framework. Quantitative means there is definitely loss. There is some increase around the vessels and in between the tumor, but majority of it is showing loss of reticulin architecture. Okay, so this is the this is the reticulin algorithm. So if there's an altered reticulin framework in association with any of the following features, it indicates malignancy. Again, mitosis of more than 5 per 10 millimeter square, necrosis, and angioinvasion. Again, it is applicable to all the histological subtypes of adrenal cortical neoplasms. So, can you go to the next case? Shananta, do you want to add something?
No. It's perfect. Smoothly going on. Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
No
Can we
question.
go to no questions? Okay. Case 5. Okay. So, case 5 history is 13-year-old male, non-functioning mass measuring 14 centimeter in maximum dimension. So, who has not described till now any case? Please volunteer. Anybody?
I think Loknath is like.
Loknath, do you want to describe?
No.
Okay. Can you start?
Section studies.
Is there parent tissue? Is there parent tissue?
Yes.
What is the parent tissue? Did anybody see parent tissue? Shashwati?
No, ma'am.
No. So there was no parent tissue. Okay. What did you see? There is a tumor. How is it arranged? How are the cells arranged? So I'll help you out.
Trabeculum.
So what is this? This is a thick trabecula.
Trabeculum.
Isn't it looking
Trabecular.
like? Yes. Correct.
Stomachs and cords.
And sheets and
Sheet.
thick cords, right?
Vestimos.
Yeah. Can you see it? This is a thick trabecula, similar to what you see in hepatocellular carcinoma, right? They are surrounded by thin vessels.
Vessels.
What's happening here, Loknath? What's this focus?
With
Loknath, what's this?
Neck.
Necrosis, very good. Okay. Can we describe the tumor cells? Some are small, some are large. There is, again, abrupt nuclear polymorphism. So there's not much polymorphism in terms of shape, but size is variable, right?
Yes.
Again, another focus of necrosis. What about nucleoli?
Indistinct.
Okay. Can be seen in some cells. So rest of them are chromocenters, but there are nucleoli. Okay. Like this one. Can you see this one? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, unlike the first case, adenocortical adenoma, what is different in this tumor? First means first of the adenocortical. What about the cytoplasm? That's clear lipid-rich cytoplasm. What about this? This is
eosinophilic.
Yes, these are more like compact cells, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you remember one of the criterion in the classification was percentage of compact cell component. So definitely this tumor is mainly compact cells, right? Yeah. The section doesn't have any capsule, so we cannot comment upon capsular invasion. Neither we can see the sinusoids or the vessels. But what about mitosis? Did you find mitosis?
Both typical and atypical mitosis are present.
Yes, but atypical was there, correct. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it quickly. But yes, look, it has come in the view. You see, it's a tripolar mitosis. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an atypical mitosis.
Mitosis.
Okay. There are chromosomal fragments separately also present. Okay. Okay. And there were frequent mitotic activity plus apoptosis also. So, which criteria will you like to use for this patient? Hmm?
Modified ways.
Modified these.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so what will be the score?
Because necrosis was also present.
Ma'am, necrosis, atypical mitotic figure is present.
Marked pleomorphism is also there.
Necrosis.
So what do you want to call it? What do you want to call it? Adenoma or carcinoma?
Adrenal cortical carcinoma.
Oh, like carcinoma. What is the age of this patient?
13-year-old.
13 years.
Is it an adult patient?
No.
No, but when we said that the Guy's criteria are applicable for adults, right? So what will you use for this patient? Winnicki's criteria. Okay. Why do we use Winnicki's criteria in pediatric patients? Because even if you see an adenocortical adenoma in pediatric patients, they tend to be having or rich in compact cells. They tend to have more of sheaths and trabeculae as compared to adults. So it has been observed that if we use the Weiss criteria for pediatric patients, many of the benign tumors get misclassified as carcinoma and end up getting aggressive therapy. Okay. So that's why Winnicki's criteria were suggested in 2004, and they have till now held their position. They are quite good. They do not have perfect sensitivity specificity, but till now they are the best of what is available. So again, the need to weigh every endocrine organ tumor. Okay, so you can see tumor weight is an important criterion in Winnicki criteria. This patient did not have a high tumor weight, or we could not. This was a single tumor block from outside, so we could not assess many of the features. But still, it had many features like atypical mitosis, necrosis, and high mitotic count, and could be categorized as malignant. That's the size was 13 centimeter. So it could be categorized as malignant using the limited tissue we have. Okay, so these are the criteria for Winnicki's. We in fact recently did a study and we tried to use a reticular algorithm in the Helsinki criteria also in pediatric, and they could be applied. Just that the Helsinki scoring system had a different cutoff for calling the cases as malignant. But reticulin and Helsinki are applicable to pediatric also. So these patients, although our patient was asymptomatic in terms of hormonal profile, hormonal excess, he had just presented with a mass. When in pediatric age group, many of the patients may present with multi-hormonal disease. Okay, so that's when you start thinking of carcinoma. They may have adenogenital syndrome plus Cushing. So multiple hormonal manifestations are there in cases of pediatric adenocortical carcinomas. So, sir, any comments?
No, it's perfect. Smoothly.
Okay.
Correct.
Can we go to the next case?
Yes, ma'am. No questions.
Okay. Case 6 is a 27-year-old male, bilateral adrenal tumors, and a known case of medullary thyroid carcinoma. Okay. So, Akhil, can we come back to you? I think everybody has described one.
Ma'am, I have not described.
Very good.
Right.
Who's this?
ma'am.
Shifa Mari.
Shifa. Okay, very good. Shifa, batao.
Section studied, it shows tumor cells which are polygonal in shape, and these are cells arranged in nests.
Shifa,
And
Shifa.
yeah.
Normal
Ah.
parent tissue. So did you see parent tissue?
No.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Adrenal gland parenchyma is there.
Adrenal gland, parenchyma, cortex system.
Cortex is there. What is this?
Zona
Adrenal cortex.
reticularis.
This is medulla.
Reticulum.
Glomerulosa, reticulata, reticularis, and the medulla. Then the tumor, right? Any abnormality with the adrenal cortex, with with the adrenal, adjoining adrenal? Okay, we'll come to that later. Okay, Shifa, go ahead with the tumor description.
Ma'am, these cells are arranged in nests, cords, and these cells are having a polygonal shaped with a finely granular basophilic cytoplasm, and their cytoplasm they have a round or oval nuclei with a prominent nucleoli, and these cells are varying in sizes, and there are some cells which are arranged in well-defined nests, and they are bound by the delicate fibrovascular stroma. And intervening stroma is also separated by stroma with vessels.
Okay, nice description. So where all did you falter? So nucleoli in this are not prominent, they're conspicuous. They can just be seen, right?
Yes.
They are not very large. Or you can use the word small conspicuous nucleoli. Okay. Then there's not much pleomorphism. All of the cells are more or less similar. And they have this granular amphophilic cytoplasm. You can see a bluish hue, right? Yeah. What about mitosis? What about extra-adrenal extension?
I did not see them.
You didn't see. Very good, because it's not there. But you have to again mention the negative features, negative findings. Okay. So what did you make it? What did you make this case?
I found like it was some Zell-Ballen pattern was there, so I had made it as fear.
What is the meaning of Zell-Ballen? What is the meaning of Zell-Ballen?
That well-defined nests are there with fibrovascular stroma is present.
So Zell-Ballen is German for cluster of cells, I think. German word.
Yes, type of arrangement of cells.
Yes, right. So anybody else wants to add anything? What's happening here? Can you see this focus? So the tumor is relatively circumscribed, right? You can see its circumscription.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's a relatively small tumor. It's come in just one section, right? Plus, isn't it continuing with something over here? What's it continuing with?
Extra kidney.
No, यहाँ पे देखो फिर से adrenal cortex है. There's an adrenal cortex here also, right? So what will this part be? It's the medulla.
Middle.
Okay. Don't you think it is expanded?
Adrenal middle.
Huh? Don't you think it's thickened? As compared to this part where you saw the medulla compressed, what's happening here? And how do we know it's medulla and it's not the same tumor? Can you see the junction? The tumor cells over here plus the cells over here. These are smaller, right? These are larger. These are amphophilic. These have some eosinophilic with some retraction artifact. So definitely they are different. Okay. So this is the tumor, and this is a focus of adrenomedullary hyperplasia. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's merging with the hyperplastic focus, right? So this is neoplasm hyperplasia. Okay,
Yes.
so I'll just go to my PPT. So remember, 27-year-old male, he is young, bilateral tumors. Okay, known case of MTC. Shifa, do you want to think of something? Plus
Men-
ethnomedullary
Men
hyperplasia.
Men 2 syndrome.
to
Men's syndrome.
Men 2
Men
syndrome,
2.
right? It will be 2A or 2B, right? So this is the chromogranin of the same case. Can you see? It's merging with the medulla. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not the gross of this patient, it's from another patient, but I find this image very beautiful. So you can see the pheo, you can see the adenomedullary hyperplasia. What is the definition of adenomedullary hyperplasia? And how should you, I don't know, how should you, whether I should go into this or not, how should you gross a specimen of adrenal gland? So I'll just tell you quickly. So AMA, normal cortex to medulla ratio is, anybody? 9:1. Okay. So when there's a reversal of this ratio, or when they both become equal, 1:1, or if the medulla extends into the tail or any of the ala, it is called adenomedullary hyperplasia. So how do you assess it? Is this the right way of cutting a specimen? Actually, it is not. It's an easy way because you get to see the entire adrenal gland in one go. So it's an easy way when you want to do limited sampling and quick sampling. But it's not the ideal way. Ideal way is to cut through like a bread loaf. Okay, to assess the head, the body, and the tail separately in separate sections. Okay, that's the ideal way, because then you'll get a section where you can easily measure the cortex to medulla ratio. Okay, how do you identify the junction, or how do you identify which portion is the head and which portion is the tail? So the adrenal vein, it comes off at the junction of adrenal gland head and the body. So the junction of the body and the head will have this suture which the surgeons have to mark, which the surgeon have to put. Otherwise, it will bleed enormously. So if you look for that, you'll know which end is the head. The opposite will be the tail. Okay. So these are there are many scoring systems which can be used for pheochromocytoma and or paraganglioma. The common ones being the PASS score, pheochromocytoma, of the adrenal gland scale score, and the GAP score, grading system for adrenal pheochromocytoma and paraganglioma. There are multiple parameters, you can go through it. It's similar to the other scoring systems. Problem is these are not rule-in tests. So rule-in test means if the score is high, I can be sure that the tumor patient will have metastasis or will have a malignant behavior. No. These are basically rule-out tests. So if the score is low, we are sure the patient will have a benign course. But if the score is high, then the patient still can have a benign course. Okay, these are the cutoffs which are there for these scoring systems. A modified grading system was also proposed in 2017 for the GAP score, in which they have added immunohistochemistry for SDHB. What is SDHB, Shifa or Shashwati?
succinate
Very good. Succinate dehydrogenase.
dehydrogenase B.
It's a mitochondrial enzyme. So SDHB is a part of the SDH complex, A, B, C, D, AF2, and all that. Okay. So it's said that if SDHB is mutated, then the patient is more likely to have an aggressive course. So there's an IHC available, immunohistochemistry available. If there is a loss of SDHB, then it's suppose that the patient is likely to have an aggressive course. So then there's a COPS score, composite pheochromocytoma paraganglioma score, which has fewer parameters: necrosis, invasion, tumor size, SDHB loss, and S100 loss. What does S100 label pheochromocytoma? Which part of the pheochromocytoma does S100 label?
Sustentacular cells.
Very good. So if they say if the sustentacular network is lost, the tumor is likely to behave aggressively. Okay. So you can also use Soxton in place of S100. So this is SDHB, granular cytoplasmic positivity in the tumor. There is loss in the tumor. This is not a very good case. I should have put another picture, but I couldn't find another one quickly. So usually what you see is you see a total negative staining, but the blood vessels within the tumor, they retain SDH. Okay, so that's how you see the loss. S100, you can see the beautiful meshwork on the cystenticular cells, which is lost in this particular tumor. So I talked about this. I think I by mistake put it again. So there is another scoring system called the ACEs, which was recently introduced in 2018, which incorporates age of the patient, size, extrarenal location, and whether the tumor is secretory type. So it's known that those tumors which are adrenaline type, that is, they secrete epinephrine with or without norepinephrine, they behave more benign as compared to the others or the noradrenaline type tumors. So sometimes, not usually, but sometimes it may be difficult to differentiate a cortical tumor from a medullary tumor. So these are the IHC markers. Calretinine, steroidogenic factor 1, melan A for cortical, mucochromocytoma, IMSM1, or this for actually it was first picked up in insulinoma. So that's why the name GATA3, chromogranin, and as discussed, S100 and SOX10 for sustentacular cells. The ones in red, synaptophysin, can be positive in both. And remember, although we keep on talking about alpha inhibin in cortical lesions, but it has been shown that those pheochromocytomas which are associated with VHL or increase of HIF or hypoxia-inducible factor, they can also variably express inhibin. So it's not an absolute, inhibin is not an absolute marker for, alpha inhibin is not an absolute marker for cortical lesions. Then functional immunohistochemistry can also be done. So now our patient was young. He had a positive family history, although I didn't review that. He had history of MTC and his calcitonin CA, plasma-free metanephrine and normetanephrine were elevated. So as already discussed, and you correctly answered, it's a case of MEN2 syndrome. MEN2 can be 2A or 2B. So 2A, both are associated with mutations of the red proto-oncogene, but the position of the mutation is different. 2A has MTC, pheochromocytoma, and parathyroid adenoma. And 2B, or also known as MEN3, has MTC and pheo, but instead of parathyroid lesion, it has neuromas or ganglioneuromas and a marfanoid habitus. Okay. So any questions?
No questions from the attendees.
Yes, it's smoothly going on. Perfectly, everything has point has been touched properly.
Ma'am,
Okay, so thank you. Yeah.
ma'am, I had a doubt. Is IGF-2 IHC being done in adrenal cortical carcinoma or not?
IGF-2 IHC, insulinoma, this thing for growth factor. I'm not very sure. I have not done it. I have not used it. So I think we can Google it and find out. I think I've heard of it, but I'm not sure. Is that okay? Sorry.
No.
Okay. So case number 7. 34-year-old female. History of watery diarrhea. Over here, actually, it's not 1.5 years got mistyped. It was 0.5 years or 6 months. Plus, I withheld an information which I'll tell you later. There was a past history. Actually, we got the specimen together. So we got this specimen, plus we got 3 parathyroid adenomas sent along with this specimen. So let's go over to case 7. So now I think all of you have described the cases once. So who wants to take the call? Akhil, we started with you. Can we end with you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Tell me. Yeah, Akhil.
Parent tissue looked like
I know it was confusing. What does
Duodenum.
Grade Duodenum.
Yeah, it's the
lining.
first part of duodenum. Yeah, it's first part of duodenum. You can see the prominent villi.
Villi and Brunner's gland.
Yes.
Brunner's gland. This low grade monotonous.
So what did you see? What else did you see, Akhil?
Ma'am, salt and pepper from.
First, describe the architecture. How are the tumor cells?
Cells in a trabecular pattern, tumor in.
Cells are in trabecular pattern. What about
Ma'am,
this
tumor cells are arranged in rosette pattern also.
rosette pattern or adenoid pattern, also glandular pattern, right?
Yes.
Aren't these like pseudoglandular structures, right?
Yes, ma'am.
There are rosettes. Somebody said rosettes. Very.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you see?
Trabecular.
Yeah. So many rosettes are there. What else? Any other architecture?
Nested pattern Phyota.
Nests.
Nests is also there. Yes. Right. What about the borders? Are they invasive?
Ma'am, circumscribed.
It's more or less circumscribed, but yes, it's also but it's also involving the propria. Yeah, muscularis propria is being involved. Okay, so the location of the tumor is between involving submucosa and the propria. So yes, Akhil, go ahead with the description of the tumor cells.
The tumor cells do not show any pleomorphism, ma'am. More or less uniform in size
So we
with
can say
hyperchromatic nuclei.
monomorphic tumor cells.
Monomorphic tumors.
Monomorphic tumor cells, yes, in
Hyperchromatic nuclei.
Round nuclei, right? Angular cytoplasm, small cuboidal to polygonal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Inconspicuous nucleoli.
Inconspicuous nucleoli, very good. Okay, indistinct cell borders like the granular amphiphilic cytoplasm. Okay. So what did you think of? What about mitosis?
Low.
Mitotic figures I've seen.
Mitosis was not very frequent. So what did you think of, Akhil?
Ma'am. Neuroendocrine.
Neuroendocrine tumor. Do you want to grade it?
Low grade. Low grade.
Grade 1.
Grade 1. Okay, I've not given you the KI. Right. No necrosis. Right. Okay.
Salt
so
and pepper.
Now salt and pepper. Okay. Yeah. So I gave you a history of watery parathyroid adenomas.
VIPoma.
Good option. Now I add the history of Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. So the patient has high gastrin levels. She has this thing, gastric acid pH less than 2. Plus, she has with the besides diarrhea, she has symptoms of acidity. You want to change from VIPoma to something else?
Can it be Menon?
Correct. It is Menon. Very good. But what is the tumor likely to be? So high gastrin. So all the symptoms of Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Gastrinoma, right?
Gastrinoma.
So this was a case of gastrinoma. So neuroendocrine tumor grade 1, perfect. Plus, you can see the staining with synaptophysin and gastrin. It was similar. So this is the tumor which is strongly diffusely positive. And in the adjoining area, you can see what is this happening. What is this called? Is it tumor? This is with gastrin staining and synaptophysin staining. Both showed similar pattern. This is hyperplasia of gastrin cells. Okay, this is typically seen in Menon syndrome. How do you define it? So it's at least 5 cells, pod-like arrangement, or these nests present within glands or crypts. Okay, and 2 such rows within 1 millimeter. So definitely it's much more than that. Plus it should lack invasive features, and it should be smaller than like the cutoff is not well defined, but I think it's 200 micron. So that's when you call it hyperplasia. Okay. So this is the classification for neuroendocrine neoplasms of the GIT and pancreaticobiliary tract. I'm sure this must have been taken in one of the previous GI seminars. So NET grade 1, this case was NET grade 1. It had a KI of about 2% and mitosis was rare. For grade 2, 2 to 20 mitosis per millimeter square. Again, it's millimeter square, always remember that. KI is 7, 3 to 20%. Grade 3, more than 20, or KI more than 20%. You call it carcinoma, polydifferentiated NEC, when besides this high mitosis and KI of grade 3, you have either small cell large morphology. So this patient was MEN1 syndrome. So parathyroid adenomas. Earlier in previous WHO, they used to call it microadenoid hyperplasia. Since all these tumors are monoclonal, so now they have shifted it to adenoma. They don't use the term hyperplasia in syndromes also now. They have limited the use of hyperplasia to secondary hyperplasia seen in conditions like chronic renal failure. Okay, so pancreas can show multiple endocrine tumors, and gastrinomas, endocortical adenomas, lipomas are very common. In pituitary, there is prolactinoma. So remember, MEN1 has a typical 3P: pancreas, parathyroid, and pituitary. Okay, yeah. So these are the diagnostic criteria for MEN1. Clinically, at least two MEN1 syndrome associated tumors, or if there is one such tumor plus the first degree relative with a confirmed diagnosis of MEN1 syndrome, or if you genetically confirm presence of a germline MEN1 mutation. So this is just the summary of the MEN syndromes 1, 2, and 2. There are more also besides MEN1, 2, and MEN2B. So MEN1 is three P's: pituitary adenoma, parathyroid, and pancreatic. This is not hyperplasia anymore. This is an old picture. This is taken from Wikipedia. This is an old one. It's called adenoma now. Plus pancreatic tumors, plus others, as we saw: gastrinomas in duodenum, endocortical adenomas, lipomas. In MEN2A, it is MTC and FIO plus parathyroid hyperplasia. In 2B, it is again MTC plus FIO plus mucosal neuromas and marfanoid body habitus. Okay, so I think that's it from my side. Any questions? There's a section from thyroid, and it was a difficult tumor, and this particular area was there. So it was the thyroid was smiling at me and saying that you failed. So it was a tough tumor, but a nice click. Thank you. Any questions or any concerns, sir?
Yeah,
Sir?
slightly 1 or 2 points. You have explained every of the tumor very briefly and very precisely and very correctly. Only about the gastric cell neuroendocrine cell hyperplasia, and you already said it. Just to repeat and again to say that each gland should have not more than 5 neuroendocrine cells. What you said it already. So neuroendocrine hyperplasia should be in continuous when the cells are more than 5 and they are continuous to each other in the each gland of the antrum. And about the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome versus miniature disease, in Zollinger-Ellison there is a gastrin hyperplasia, gastrin increased secretion, so the parietal cell hyperplasia. So if there is a thickness of the body cells has increased in the gastric body, so there will be more increase in the parietal cells. While in the miniature disease, there is more increase in the foveolar epithelial, mucin secreting.
Yes.
So that part is there. And another, the 5 cell you already said. And then when the cell increase hyperplasia, then they break down the gland and comes to the lamina. More than 5 cells, and then tumorlets, like piglets, tumorlets, and then the micro, you said already said very quickly, more than 200 micro, those diameters in microcarcinomas or neuroendocrine. So neuroendocrine cell normal, then hyperplasia, then tumorlets, and then neuroendocrine tumors, and the grading you have already told very nicely. So that is the part of the something about hyperplasia and how to assess.
Yes.
And more importantly, the biopsy has to be assessed on the antrum rather than the body. Body may see the more common the G cells and gastrin cells are in the antrum of the stomach.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is very good, nicely, and you have comprehensively touched each of them. There are something new has come for the CNS. Earlier, we used to report the paraganglioma of the spinal cord. Now that terminology has changed. You want
Yes.
to touch that point? Something.
Sir, the terminology is changed, and
Yes.
it's a long terminology. I may not be absolutely correct in putting it on this platform. So,
Okay. Sure. So no problem. No problem. Just the resident will have to do some homework about all these things. Okay. So nice of you. You have comprehensively touched all the points with the live example and have personal experience. And the resident and I also have enjoyed in detail about the things. Now over to the moderator, please.
Yes, sir. So as sir said, it was a very well organized teaching session, ma'am. It was not only good for the students, but even consultants and practicing pathologists like us. Very good revision of the basics and even updates on the recent criteria. There are comments now, no more questions. Dr. Mugdha wants to say that it was a very informative session with very intriguing cases. Thank you, madam. I think with that,
Shipra for the marathon session, and still there are so many students here, students as well as faculty in the chat room waiting for you to continue. But thank you very much, you and Sharan, for a very informative session, and I wish to thank students also to actively participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumit, for all the things. Giving
Thank you,
this.
sir. Yeah. Sir, very nicely elaborated on that gastrin cell part. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Please.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Gujral, sir, for inviting me.
Pleasure, Shipra, very much for your time. I'm sure you're busy, but you still took out your time. You were, means you told me that you were busy these days, and you requested to change the date, but we couldn't help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry for troubling you for that.
No, but I appreciate it, and thank you again for for standing up and giving your time to kids. Your experience, a wealth of experience you have in AIMS and in Delhi. This Sharan has sharing this neuroendocrine tumors. It says an art, and you have delivered it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Please. Stay good night. Yeah, good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you, everyone. I'm very happy that you should.
See you on Thursday. We have a session on diabetes. The diabetes, we have 3 speakers, one laboratory medicine specialist, one histopathologist, and one nephrologist. So we'll be discussing around 4 cases of diabetes. So, you will be discussed about how to diagnose and work up a case with, blood sugar sample and changes in kidneys and other organs, and comment by clinical nephrology. So look forward to have you all on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.